This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
From Philadelphia to Erie and from Pittsburgh to Scranton, it's Behind the Headlines. I'm Charlie Greenawalt, Senior Fellow of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. I'm joined as usual by my co-host, Maura Donley. Hi, Maura.
Hello, Charlie.
Well, we're in the fall season now, and are you excited about Penn State football for this season?
Gosh, yes. I am a big fan. Yes, I'm excited about this year's team. I'm reading great things, seeing great things. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
I saw the other day that in preseason rankings they were ranked 5, and we'll see as the season goes on if that holds up or not.
Yeah.
But to start off today, we have a good friend with us,
Yes.
and someone who is at the heart of Pennsylvania government, and that is Dave Sanko. Dave, welcome to the show. Dave, of course, you are the executive director of the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, and we welcome you back to the show.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here.
Why, since we last met and had you on the show, you had your annual conference. We had talked about your annual conference. It's quite an event in Pennsylvania and in central Pennsylvania. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened there and what was accomplished?
Sure. Well, it was a great turnout. We had close to 4,000 people.
Oh my goodness.
That's amazing.
And they come there really to learn how to do things better for their residents, for their citizens, to provide better local government. So they walk away with all kinds of cool ideas. We'll have like 80 different workshops, all kinds of vendors. I talked to one township that walked away telling a story about, last year they paid almost $120,000 to mill their roads to prepare them for paving. And this year, rather than doing that for the contractor, they went out and rented a piece of equipment for $19,000. Two townships got together, used each other's crews, and did more work for half the money.
Wow.
And it's those kinds of ideas and those kinds of savings that residents are the real beneficiaries of, where we get to do more things.
That's networking at its best.
It is.
Right there. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Well, so let's shift gears a little bit. We're into a municipal election year for 2023. What kind of races do we see, and should we be paying attention? I know municipal election years don't always get the attention that they're supposed to, but what should we be looking for?
Well, I think first and foremost, everybody should be paying attention in their local communities, because local government really affects them more on a day-to-day basis than what goes on necessarily in Washington or Harrisburg. We won't see it on the TV, we won't hear about it on the radio, and may not even read it in the newspapers anymore because it just doesn't draw that kind of attention. I mean, sadly, even local papers, or what's left of local papers, are owned by big out-of-town conglomerates, and one of the first things they do is trim their local staff. And so I'm not sure, people really are going to have to make an effort to find out who's running for their local government, because it's those folks who at the end of the day are going to provide the services and keep their taxes low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dave just made a good appeal for the Hummelstown Sun, one of the examples of a local paper that has stayed vibrant and remains, but very much endangered, aren't they? Dave, we're 2/3 of the way through the first year of a new session of the state legislature and a new governor. How would you assess the productivity of this new team, this new combination?
There was an old country western song. It was called "A Little Less Talk and a Lot More Action," and I think Pennsylvanians would welcome that. We've just seen. Here we are in September, and I think the legislature and the governor have produced 7 new laws, which is pretty low for a first term.
That's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, because a lot of times people are well served when the legislature is not in session.
Yes.
And it may mean everything's fine and everything is working well. But there are some important things that are out there that do need to get done, and I think need to get back. They were scheduled to come back to work in September and be able to move forward on some of those things. And we are hopeful and optimistic that will get done.
Well, we finally did get a state budget, a little bit not on time this year. So how did this new budget affect local government?
Well, because a lot of the state budget isn't geared to go towards local government, there hasn't been a large impact at the township and municipal level. The counties do have an impact with human services funding and 911 funding and stuff like that. But on balance, what local governments are really looking for in the budget is some relief so that they can be able to provide better services with limited resources they do have.
Well, Dave, the legislature is going to come back into session in late September sometime, and when it does, and you're up on Capitol Hill with your staff, what are some of the important issues that your organization is going to be looking to promote?
Well, I think like many people who think that they would be just fine if government would just get out of their way and let them alone. We would argue that the local government could be a lot more effective and efficient if the state would and federal government would get out of the way and let them alone. We're, some mandates that are there that are costly mandates. One that comes to mind that I hope the legislature addresses is giving local communities the option for electronic advertising to help their meetings become more visible to the public. You can put them on the website as opposed to the old antiquated pay for a newspaper ad for a newspaper that at one time we all wanted to help make sure stayed in business, but now most of them are out-of-town conglomerates, as I referenced before. But giving that option will give more people the opportunity to find out what's going on in their communities and be able to get to those meetings. And that, frankly, isn't so much about whether you're trying to help or hurt newspaper industry. It's really about saving money for the local community. There's $35 million a year that is spent in Pennsylvania just on meeting notices, not on anything else, not bidding, not projects, not hiring, just meeting notices, $35 million. Well, if that $35 million were freed up, you'd find local communities could do a little extra with their local parks, do a little extra with a trail, a little extra with some more paving or roads. Quality services that happen at the local level that right now can't be done because they're having to spend money on some of the exorbitant services. Another example I talked about a transportation example where they saved money. I can tell you of 4 communities that got together, and we always encourage intergovernmental cooperation and shared services. And 4 communities got together and wanted to build a joint salt shed to store their salt for the winter. And each of them could have built their own for $25,000 each, but they got together and said, we're just going to build one. And they were able to do that could have done that for about $60,000, and then they divided up, and it'd be a cheaper number for each person. But under the current PennDOT rules, when you get your money from PennDOT, you're only allowed to spend it in your township. So the 3 townships who were helping build the salt shed in another community got dinged in audits, and the residents are effectively supposed to pay that back. And it was like, that just doesn't make sense. If we're going to encourage cooperation, let's allow that and get out of the way. Let them work together, let them do things to save money, and get off the high horse of some of the nonsensical, or less than common sense rules.
Well, we've seen a lot lately. I know I've seen a couple ribbon cuttings on broadband access in different communities, which is huge. It will go towards, having a broader reach for the citizens of each of the communities. This seems to me like exciting news because, believe it or not, our viewers might not realize there are a lot of communities that do not have broadband access in Pennsylvania.
Sure. There are some 800,000 homes that don't have any access, and hundreds of thousands more that don't have adequate access. Right. And really, at the end of the day, as more and more services, as more and more people buy more and more devices and phones and tablets and your cars and your refrigerators and your thermostats now want to talk to each other, and you control everything from your phone, that's using more and more bandwidth. So even the areas that have the best service today are going to be challenged as more and more people put a strain on that system. So we've got a huge amount of money that's coming into the state. I mean, $1.2 billion in federal dollars. The state has put together a plan. They're collecting survey information to try and find out where there are gaps in service. But one of the peculiar things about that survey, when you're asking people, do you have broadband service, and how could we, is that you can only answer that, or you have to answer that survey online. So
There's a certain irony there.
there's maybe something wrong.
Yeah.
That you are only checking with people who have access. So we've been pressing to try and find out how to collect the rest of the information because people who don't have that can't fill out an online survey.
Right.
So on Friday late last month, we were able to get a phone number that you can now complete that survey by phone. So we'd encourage
good.
folks to call in, and if I could, I want to share that number, 570-865-8185.
Would you say that again, Dave?
570-865-8185. And for anybody who wants to participate in that survey, to dial in, offer your comments about broadband service and access, because I think that'll go a long way in helping to make sure that people who truly don't have service have their voices heard. The data has been in collections for the last 4 months, so we've got 4 months of people who have internet access. Their data is in,
Yeah.
and they're going to close the survey in mid-October. So we've got only about 30 days to be able to help get the rest of the word out. So anybody, both for local governments and residents, to call in.
Okay. Well, we have a situation with increased or enhanced internet activity. Some people would suggest that cybercrime and hacking will become a little bit more aggressive. Does PSATS have any type of strategy or ideas on how to handle that?
It is. We do, and it is going to get crazy. I mean, there's a lot of bad actors out there that are hacking, and we only have to you can pick up the paper almost every day and find out someplace where people have had identity theft or accounts have been locked down and they're being held for ransom. So we've been doing a lot of training with our members for townships because they also have information for taxpayers. We want to make sure that's protected. But also to help them ensure that their residents have protections in place. So things like having strong passwords, things like having multi-factor authentication where you have to, it'll send you a text message with a code that you can put in. But simple things like that, but also having cyber insurance. And we're rolling out a cyber insurance program for municipalities here in the fall to help them go through and understand the kinds of things they can do to reduce their exposure and have adequate insurance if they do have that unfortunate occurrence, because it's happening all over Pennsylvania. We saw last month Allegheny County acknowledged that they had been hacked. The Department of Human Services said about 100,000 records in northwestern Pennsylvania for children's services had been hacked, and the data has been compromised. So even with the best efforts, you're getting hacked. So we need everybody to kind of ramp up their engagement and level and try and put safeguards in place.
Do you have a name for that initiative yet?
We're calling it the Cyber Advantage.
Oh, I think that sounds awesome because from somebody who has been hacked in the past, and it's not a fun thing to go through. So that's great news. Well, let's just shift gears a little bit here and talk about the summer travel experience for Pennsylvanians. How did it go, and how is it going to be going with our roads and bridges? We've got a lot of money coming in through the infrastructure program. Are we going to see a lot? I mean, I think we've seen a lot of work this summer. Are we going to see a lot more into the fall as well?
I think there's a lot of money that's going to be spent, probably record amounts, but still not enough to cover what some of those costs are. But there are some things that we're hopeful the legislature will do as we look at funding transportation in the future, because soon that federal money is going to dry up and go away, and we're going to be having to find out how to do it on our own. We're encouraged with the bill that's going through the legislature, Senator Langerholtz, to have a fee for electric vehicles. Currently, people that have electric vehicles don't pay anything towards the maintenance of the highways. So that is something that is being put in place to help ensure that kind of big heavy cars or trucks are making their contribution. And as we see, frankly, more electric vehicles, more alternate fuel vehicles, more fuel efficient vehicles, there's less and less money being collected the old-fashioned way through the gas tax. So there needs to be some kind of stable revenue source moving forward to make sure that the roads and bridges in Pennsylvania can remain safe, whether they're owned by the local government, which owns 2/3 of all the highways, or the state government.
Okay, well, Dave, we want to thank you very much for being with us again, and we're looking forward to a new legislative year and what that holds for for us and for our townships. And we'll be asking you to come back very soon. And we want you to come back right after this message.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, the largest, most influential municipal association in the Commonwealth. Since 1921, PSATS has been preserving and strengthening township government and securing greater visibility and involvement for townships in the state and federal political arenas. Covering 95% of Pennsylvania's land mass, townships represent 5.5 million residents, more than any other type of political subdivision in Pennsylvania. Additional underwriting provided by the Worrell Corporation Foundation, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, by the Edward H. and Jeannie Arnold Foundation, and by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Visit pahighwayinfo.org.
Hi, welcome back. On this segment of Behind the Headlines, Maura and I are joined by our State Treasurer, Stacy Garrity. Stacy, welcome back to the program.
Great to be here with you.
Well, you were here not too long ago, and we were talking about the really souped-up program of unclaimed property that your office has brought about here in the Commonwealth. And associated with that is the fact that, well, the state treasurers controls the vault for the state of Pennsylvania. And I've actually been in that once.
Have you?
Oh, yes, a long time ago when I worked for the Senate. I was able to secure a visit over there. Can you tell us a little bit about the vault that you operate? And
I can.
Something that's very special that's in there for our Commonwealth veterans and what you've been doing for them.
Absolutely. So, fun fact, we have the largest working vault in the nation, if you can believe that. And it's right in my building in the basement, but it was built in 1939, and at the time it was just under $600,000. So if you adjusted for inflation today, that would be over $13 million. But it's made of 400 tons of steel, and the front door alone is 60 tons. So you'll probably remember, Charlie, that door about how hard it spun, and it's actually, I say, cooler than the movie Ocean's 11, if you've seen that movie. Our vault is a better vault. But once you get behind that door, we have something that is very near and dear to my heart since I'm an Army veteran. So it's military decorations and memorabilia. And they come from every branch of service, from every major conflict, we largely get them from abandoned safe deposit boxes. And so we've really made it a priority to push getting back these military decorations either to the veteran or the veteran's family, so that we can let them know how much we appreciate their sacrifice that they made for our nation. And so far since taking office, I've had the honor to return 380, and that includes 3 Bronze Stars and 6 Purple Hearts.
Oh my goodness, that is really awesome. And that you can proactively do. You don't need legislation like the money match program. And,
No.
Okay,
no,
you can just actively seek out who these things belong to.
We do. It takes a fair amount of detective work.
I bet.
You
Yeah.
can imagine. But we don't leave any stone unturned, and we send a proclamation from my office along with the medals. Or if they want to have a ceremony, I'll go to the VFW or the Legion, or one time we did it at the Greek Trinity Orthodox Church for a veteran that had no family. He was deceased. Timothy Morrow Horace, a Korean War veteran. And so Father Michael was gracious enough. We had a ceremony over there, and he and the church family display his medals.
Where was that at?
That was right over at Camp Hill.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, let's. We've spent a lot of time talking about the unclaimed property, but you have so much more going on. I want to make sure we cover everything. You have something called the INVEST program. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that?
I can. So we've had INVEST program for over 30 years, and basically INVEST is kind of like a money market, and it's for local government. So we have 2 different INVEST funds. One is for local governments and one is for nonprofits. And what the great thing about INVEST is, it offers same-day liquidity without penalty. If you get on our website, which is patreasury.gov/invest, you can look up what the rates are. So right now, those rates are a little over 5%. And so when you think about it, think about your volunteer firefighters who, they really struggle. And so if they have a little bit of money, instead of leaving it in a checking account, they can move it over to invest, earn some money on it, and you can withdraw any time. There's no fees, there's no penalties, there's no minimum balance required. And I have found that we don't do enough to really promote our Invest program, because when I travel around the Commonwealth, there are a lot of local governments, a lot of nonprofits that don't know about it. And so what we've just done, last week we hired the first Invest manager that we've had in over a decade.
Well, how does Invest help local agencies and nonprofit organizations, Stacy?
So what they can do is they can basically put their money there, and so then they can, they'll earn whatever the rate is. So right now it's a little over 5%. But the other thing is, Invest is managed by Treasury's investment professionals, and it has earned the highest rating from S&P. And so the three objectives for Invest are to conserve the principal, to make sure that these agencies have flexible liquidity, and to contain costs. So it's a really low-cost program. It's only like 11 basis points. So we think it's a way that we can be out there and help our local governments and our nonprofits.
How many organizations are currently taking advantage of this?
There's about 260 organizations, and the total Invest pool is about $1.3 billion. But I think we should have a lot more
That's
agencies.
not that many.
No, it's really not
It's
that
clearly
many.
not enough.
No, it's not enough. So I expect when I come back on next year that number will be significantly higher, and so will the dollars.
Well, as state treasurer, you also run the Pennsylvania 529 College and Career Savings Program. Can you tell us, tell our viewers, what is the Pennsylvania 529 program?
Yes, so that's the College and Career Savings Program, and it's been in existence for over 30 years, and it's just a great way to save for education. So a lot of families use PA 529 accounts for post-secondary education, but you can always also use it for K through 12. I like to push that it's not just four-year programs. It's community college, it's technical schools, it's apprenticeship programs, and we all know throughout the Commonwealth that skilled labor is very scarce. So we like to say that it's very, very flexible, and it provides tremendous tax advantages. So the money grows tax-free. When you withdraw it, there's tax advantage. There's no inheritance tax. And you know what? In Pennsylvania, it does not impact the student's financial aid eligibility. So that's fantastic as well.
How does it work exactly? I mean, how do you buy into it? I mean, are you buying credits? Are you buying?
So there's two programs. So
Okay.
one is the Guaranteed Savings Program, so the GSP. And that basically allows you to buy credits at today's cost for your future. So in other words, you're hedging against inflation. So no matter what happens with inflation, your costs are at today's rate. And then there's the investment plan, and that's the IP plan. And that basically, if you want to pick what option that you want to invest your money in.
Okay. Yeah, this is my memories kicking in a little bit. This was Senator Jubilier's program.
It was Senator Jubilee.
Yes, and it was State Treasurer Hafer who was in the office at that.
Hafer.
Barbara
Wow,
Hafer, I believe,
yeah.
and she later claimed ownership of the program.
It's really fantastic because our IP plan, so Morningstar rates plans, and so we are only just a handful of states in the nation that are silver rated. So that just means that our plan, that it's very good stewardship, it's very well managed. So we're really proud of that. So we've had the silver rating now, I think 3 consecutive years. And right now, families have almost $7 billion saved for education.
It's amazing because, I remember being there as it was conceived, and it's really grown wonderfully. And you've cut fees for the Pennsylvania 529 several times. Can you tell us why you've cut fees?
Yes, because we really want to make sure that, education is affordable as possible, for, kids and their parents. And so just since I've been in office, we've cut fees by over $11 million. And that's pretty significant. So we waived fees last year and this year for the GSP plan, so no fees. And that combined was, probably $10.7 million. And then we've cut fees on the investment plan twice as well. So that's really important. Right now, I mean, the program's just doing fantastically. There's over 280,000 accounts in existence.
And how many, so it's been in existence for over 30 years, so
Correct.
a lot of parents have probably, I don't know, aged out of it. I'm just curious, what happens if they don't spend all the money?
You can roll it over to, you know, different siblings, grandchildren, nieces and nephews. So it is quite flexible.
Well, that's wonderful. I had no idea you could do that.
Yeah.
Well, Treasurer, how much do you think that Pennsylvania families have saved for education by using these accounts over time?
Just about $7 billion, if you can believe that. So it's a pretty significant number. And like I said, it's going very well. One of the few rated plans. And again, when I'm out and about in all 67 counties, I go to a lot of schools, a lot of community colleges, technical schools, and we push this all over the place.
Do you find that a lot of people don't know about it?
Yeah, you know what? A lot of people, particularly in rural counties, don't know about a lot of the programs that Treasury has to offer, which is why we initiated an outreach team. And so last year, we hired our first outreach director ever. And so now we have coverage in all four corners of the state, and we're really doing everything we can just to bring awareness about you know, the great programs that Treasury offers and how they can help, you know, Pennsylvanians.
Well, in the remaining minute and a half that we have, Treasurer, I was wondering if you could share with the public what the future for the State Treasurer might hold for the State Treasury, what you're looking to do in the next, in the remainder of your term.
Okay, well, the remainder of my term, you know, we'll continue to increase transparency. We're going to be pushing Invest. We want to break a new record for unclaimed property. We want to grow our outreach. And really, you know, I travel, you know, so much around the Commonwealth. And it doesn't matter what corner I'm in. When I hear from parents, they want opportunities for their children and their grandchildren, and they want them right here in the Commonwealth. The other thing I do is I do a lot to, you know, to push things that make common sense, I think, for Pennsylvania, like oil and gas, you know, technical schools, you know, things that are really to help our hardworking taxpayers, because that's who I work for, the taxpayers.
How long does it normally, it takes you the full year to get to all 67 counties. Do you check them off as you go?
Oh, yes, we have a map. But I'll be done probably at the end of September. And most counties I go like multiple times. So I rarely turn down a request.
So you are available upon request.
I am.
Yeah.
So you've heard it here. Look for the State Treasurer in your county in the near future.
That's
But
right.
listen to her more than anything. Yeah.
And thank you for tuning in with us. Be sure to tune in again next week, and we'll see you then.